Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of the Troy Smith Show, presented to you by Rare.us. So I'm wearing all black today, as you can see, and I've picked a couple reasons why that is. One, it's for Nikki Haley's campaign, which effectively ended last night. We still have the Nevada caucuses coming up, which she conveniently forgot in her victory speech last night, but we're going to get to that in just a second. So the all black, it's for you, Nikki. Of course, I'm wearing all black because we have a couple other things to discuss, and mainly it's the downfall of the United States. So you could say that this is for Nikki Haley and for the United States, because right now, as it stands, lawyers have destroyed the United States. Um, Let me ask you this: who benefits from the downfall of the U.S.? Who routinely benefits from the downfall of the United States? Not only on the winning side, but on the losing side as well. It would be lawyers. Lawyers don't care what happens as far as will the country be saved? Will the country not be saved? They care about money, and the idea that the future of our country is going to be fought out in a courtroom is laughable, because lawyers are the most corrupt people in the world. And by the way, guess who the judges are? They're lawyers. They're actually the more experienced lawyers. They just become judges. So our entire system is set up with a bunch of lawyers running everything. I started thinking about this a while ago, and then I went back into the record books, because I remember reading about Thomas Jefferson and how he was a lawyer. And I thought to myself, well, what did he have to take the bar exam? How did that go in in the 1700s? And you didn't have to pass a bar exam to be a lawyer. I mean, a lawyer back then was basically somebody who could just read and write and could process basic information for people that couldn't do that, because we had so many people that were, farmers and really not literate at that time, because literacy was not something that was a top priority of most people. They were just trying to survive. So I started looking at it, and Thomas Jefferson never passed the bar. In fact, the bar didn't come around until the early 1900s. So we had 200 years of the United States almost where there were no lawyers by the American Bar Association. And I started to think about it, and if you really centered up the year that the bar became a standard in the American courtroom, you're talking about the 1920s. And what have we seen since the 1920s? This country's been going ever since the 1920s, ever since lawyers got a kind of stranglehold on the courtroom. And I know people, look, I mean, I'm a co-host on Roger Stone's show. Roger's had his fair share of legal problems over the years, and every time he has to find a lawyer. I mean, and I wasn't present for any of it because I've only gotten to know Roger really in the last year. But even Roger Stone, even Donald Trump they're captive to the lawyers that represent them, because at the end of the day, if those lawyers misrepresent them, which they almost always do, they put them in a very bad situation. And in Trump's case, all we have to do is look at the 2020 election lawsuits to figure out, hey, this was not the best run show. So really, when it comes down to it, our freedoms are the leading candidate for president of the United States is sitting in multiple courtrooms right now with a lawyer on his side, a lawyer on the other side, and a lawyer judge sitting behind some kind of podium, determining whether he will be able to run for president. The guy that the American people overwhelmingly want as their president, per the polls, per the 2020 election results. But yet, it's lawyers who are deciding this. And if you notice, they don't give a damn about what you think. They don't give a damn about the Constitution. And if you want to know why every single time the Republicans try to do something, like whether that's defend the border, whether that is move resources to strengthen border control, whether that is deporting people, whether that's anything that the Republicans try to do to try to maintain law and order, the Democrats come in with a bunch of lawyers and mess it up. And it is just a vicious cycle, folks. And how is it that most of our politicians are lawyers? We have lawyer politicians making laws that lawyer prosecutors and lawyer judges sit and contemplate and put people that are good Americans behind bars. And I don't trust lawyers. I don't trust any of them. I don't trust a lawyer, any lawyer, as much as I could pick them up and hurl them across the room. Now, I'm sure there's some midget lawyers out there, so it might be easier in some cases, but I'm telling you, if I should say, a fully developed male, I don't think I would trust a fully developed male lawyer, to hurl him across the room. I wouldn't trust him as much as I could do that. And I think so many of our problems, so much of the decay, so much of the softening of the edges in this country has happened because of lawyers. And they're richer than anybody. They're making more money than anybody. And really, when it comes down to it, they are the reason that we don't see action on things that the American people care about, and we do see action on things that they hate. These people hate America as a whole. I mean, if you're just taking the whole crop of them, it's a really bad situation. And even in our political world, where we're told these are the people that are supposed to be running the country, the lawyers are the ones who ultimately have the upper hand, the final say. And who knows? We've gotten cease and desist from lawyers for reports we've done on here. Nothing wrong with the reports. They just send us cease and desist, and they're like, yeah, this is lawfare. This is lawfare, and this is what these people do. So how do you fix that? I'm not even sure that you can, really, because so much of the country is built on judges and lawyers and this legal system that is completely out of hand. And it's been out of hand for years and years and years. I mean, look at what they do to the average American if you don't pay your taxes. They'll literally throw you in jail. They'll destroy your life. They'll take your assets. These people are insane. And this is the country that we live in. And it's hard for me as somebody in media to sit here and to explain exactly what's happening, because none of this is sudden. None of this has occurred overnight. This has been a process that has kind of worked its way down the steps of time. And the only thing I can point towards and say for sure that's a problem, you look at people who have been in this country for 60, 70, 80 years. If you've been an American for 80 years, you've seen this country go from basically the most comfortable situation in the world to one of the worst. You've seen our education systems go from one of the best to one of the worst. You've seen us become, instead of the top creditor nation, the top debtor nation. And it seems that all anybody that's over 60 can say is that it's the problem of the young people. The young people did this. The millennials did this. I don't think the millennials did this. I don't think Gen X did this. I don't think Gen Z did this. I think it was silent generation and the baby boomers. These people have bankrupted the United States. And now they are, and this is something that I disagree with the Trump campaign on. It's something that I disagree wholeheartedly on. It's Social Security benefits. How can you have, and just, you look at the federal budget, and we'll put up a graph of it because it's very drastic. Over half of the money that the government spends every year. We hear so much about the deficit, how much the government spends. Over half of that money every year goes to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security entitlements. Three things account for more than half of the money that our government spends in total every year. So all the stuff you hear about, the military spending or the border spending, or we can't give $6 billion for a wall, it's BS. It's BS because the majority of the spending goes back to the people. But that's a mechanism of socialism. It's taking, and here's the thing. People think that, because I got Social Security, because I paid a percentage of my check for my whole life, there's a sum sitting there for me. And when I reach a certain age, that sum will be there. That's not how it works. It's not how it really has ever worked. They changed it a long time ago, and I'm talking 40, 50 years ago, where the money's not there. There is no money there. It's a tax, essentially, that's put onto the working people to pay for the people who aren't working. That's socialism. And this is what I don't understand. If you gave me a choice between sending a check to someone who's 60 or 70 years old and at the bar every day, enjoying their retirement, or the working mother in the city that ain't got a dime. I mean, who are you going to send the money to? I mean, our whole system, and this is over 50% of the budget, is geared towards people who are on their way out. Dead, dying, sick, old, whatever. Why is that? And why are we surprised when the thing that we focus most of our resources on is what we get in abundance of? If you, as a government, sit there and say, we're going to spend most of our money on the dead, sick, and dying, your people are going to be dead, sick, and dying. And they're going to be more dead, sick, and dying until you eventually cut it off. We are encouraging failure. We're encouraging people. The basic tenets of Social Security are, if I could just get to this age, the government will pay for my existence. That's what it is. It's pure socialism. And the Trump campaign comes out and says, well, Nikki Haley's a fascist because Nikki Haley wants to cut Social Security. That's not true. That's not true. Social Security is a massive problem. It will bankrupt the United States. It will destroy the United States if we allow it. It will completely destroy the dollar and this entire country. So why is addressing that a problem? And people say, well, it's a promise. I'm sorry, if you banked your life on a promise from the government, you messed up big time, and you shouldn't be shocked when they don't come through. And it's not the working people's responsibility to pay for those who don't work, period. If you want to retire, save your money and wait for the day that you can retire. Other than that, get the hell to work. We have so many jobs in this country at this point that young people don't want to take. And they don't want to take it because they're jobs designed for high schoolers. We're talking about, the infamous boomer jobs that they always talk about, the flipping burgers, that kind of thing. And the kids don't want these jobs because they get out of college and they realize, well, what's the best I could be at a McDonald's, a manager, and I'd make $20,000 a year? No, thank you. These jobs are not meant for people to go in and stay there a long time and move up. These jobs are meant for people who need a certain amount of money, don't necessarily have the skills to do anything else, and just need some money. That's basically what it is. To think that we have all these open jobs. I mean, you go to a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A, they can't even staff the place anymore. There's no people. And we have millions and millions of people on Social Security sitting at home collecting checks from the government instead of working, which they could easily do that benefits everybody. You get what you pay for and you get what you ask for. And when the government goes out there and tells people, hey, if you're old and sick and dying, we'll pay for your existence, people will work to become old, sick, and dying because they would rather do that than actually have to go out there and work. And I think what's tough for people in my generation, especially, is that we were told growing up the whole time that, oh, you don't want to end up flipping burgers, you don't want to end up flipping burgers, you don't want to end up flipping burgers. And I think that really came from a place of fear from the older generations because when it comes down to it, a majority of them don't have the skills to exist in a workplace today. They don't have the skills to be competent enough to survive. And that's a problem. And I'm not, I am 100% against assisted suicide. I think it's horrible. I'm 100% against, what we see in the nursing homes with people beating people and whatnot. I mean, it's worse than, it is worse than a Guantanamo Bay situation. But on the other hand, what are you to do when your country sits on the brink of annihilation because people are sitting at home and collecting checks? You have to cut it off. And people will be up in arms. They'll freak out. But at the end of the day, you have to do it. And it's not about the people that paid into Social Security. It's not about anything other than the survival of our nation. We have to make a tough decision. We either continue to support the people on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, or we survive as a nation. I will always choose the survival of the nation above these kind of socialist programs that, I'm sorry, don't serve any benefit to the people of this country. I don't think we should have a situation where somebody has a multi-million-dollar house and they're on Social Security using that money to pay the mortgage on their multi-million-dollar house. It's atrocious. It's atrocious, especially when there's all these housing concerns and there's concerns about people housing affordability and rent, and all these things are going through the roof. There's a supply issue. And I think a lot of that supply issue is wrapped up in the fact that as soon as people hit 65, we start sending them checks until they die. And many times we continue sending them checks even after they die. When you send everybody in the country that's over 65 a certain amount of money you're talking trillions of dollars, folks, money that you and I can't even fathom. And it's spent on a yearly basis. What do these things benefit the country? If just let's play devil's advocate for a second. And let's just say they cut Social Security and they didn't cut the tax, whatever it is, 12.5% or whatever. It's still there. But that money goes, if you have more than 3 kids that are biologically yours, we send you a stipend. We send you a little bit of assistance. Can you imagine? We're talking about the birth rate in this country has been going downhill for some time. People aren't having kids, and it's a major problem. And it's spelled out in other countries like Japan too, where they have so few people having children that they actually have to import people from the Middle East in order to keep their population going. In order to have enough people to man the jobs, they have to literally go out and import people. And that has a cultural effect. As we see with New York City and Chicago, when you import millions of people from different places, it has an effect on your overall culture. So what can you do other than reimagine Social Security and to repurpose it, and repurpose it for the prospect of making American families and encouraging people to have American families? And if we do that, I guarantee you, we will switch from incentivizing the dead and the dying and the old to life. And that's what we want. We want a vibrant country. We want a country that actually fosters life and fosters the pursuit of happiness and does not instead direct all of our energy and resources to the dead and dying. It's a tough decision, but it's a decision that we're going to have to face as a nation. And if we don't, we will be annihilated, and the dollar will fall, and the United States will crumble. It's a difficult decision. It's something that every politician for the last 60 years has kicked under the rug because they said, well, the next person will deal with it. It's going to take somebody. And it's not look, this is not an endorsement of Nikki Haley. This is saying that the Trump campaign attacking Nikki Haley for wanting to address the problem of Social Security is not good. Because if we don't address that problem, nothing gets fixed. You can pump all the oil you want. You can build all the infrastructure you want. You can export all the goods you want. You'll never make up for the 65 plus trillions of dollars that are taken out of this economy every year by people who are dead, old, and dying. You will never, ever economically be able to replace the money that they are currently siphoning off. And by the way, as we continue to advance medically and scientifically and technologically, these people are going to live longer and longer and longer. And those bills, that yearly cost that already represents a majority of the U.S. budget, will soon be even higher. So we're $33 trillion in debt. It's going to be even worse. It's going to get even worse unless we address the issue: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. And if you really wanted to get down to it, it's a disgrace that people would dare call themselves conservative while waiting for a check from the government in the mail or a direct deposit from the government. You're not conservative if you take handouts from the government. I know this for a fact. When I had Launch Liberty, I could have filed for a PPP loan. I could have taken $20,000, $30,000 for nothing, and it would have been forgiven, and I would have walked away like a bandit. I could have signed up for the pandemic assistance, the $1,400 checks, but I didn't, because I'm a conservative and I don't believe in the redistribution of wealth, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And when you implement that on a grand scale across the country, it destroys your country. And when we fail to address this, it'll be the downfall of the country. It's a hard truth, ladies and gentlemen, but Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid pose the biggest risk to this country, period. Bigger than Russia, bigger than China, and bigger than any problem we have. There aren't any problems in the world that could really amount to the amount of money that we shell out every year for these entitlements, and they have to be addressed. If they're not addressed, the country will fall. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we did last time, it was everybody's favorite part of the show, actually, our ad, because it was so original. And I had a lot of people reach out over that ad and say, wow, that was groundbreaking. So we're here to do the same thing again. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've watched my broadcast, you've seen that I love talking about the redhead, the former White House press secretary, Jen Psaki. I think she's a 10. I call her Redhead 10. That's what I call her. And I think, it's been sad for me because as I go out there and I bring up Jen and I talk about maybe how attractive she is and really beautiful she is, people go, she's not hot. And I've had people tell me she's a 1, she's a 2, she looks like a gremlin, she's ugly. And look, I get it. The American people don't like what Jen Psaki's selling. I do, but they don't. And that's why I'm here to offer My Dr. Hank, which is a product, ladies and gentlemen, I'm guaranteeing you, if Jen Psaki broke into your house, the little 5'5" Jen Psaki broke into your house, and she was looking around, and she found a gun, and she snuck into your bedroom, and she put the gun to your head, and she forced you to have relations with her. This product, even if you thought Jen was the ugliest woman in the world, which obviously some of you do, you would be able to perform. I'm telling you, My Dr. Hank is that powerful. Even if Jen Psaki broke into your house, put a gun to your head, you could easily perform. And that's what we're talking about with the power of My Dr. Hank. Also, and this is really unbelievable. Kamala Harris, by the way, slept to the top. Lord knows what that situation looks like. I would say that if you had My Dr. Hank in hand, even Kamala Harris, which I can't get into too specifics here, but it's got to be sagging down to the floor at this point. I mean, we're talking about some major usage here. Even if you were with Kamala Harris, which is like it's hard to think about, My Dr. Hank would come through for you. Yes, that's right. Even the most toxic liberal women in the world, it would come through for you. And I'm telling you, let's take this a step further. Let's put up the video of the woman screaming at Trump's inauguration in 2017. Can we see a picture of her? That woman right there. The same woman. No! I could bang her on My Dr. Hank. That's the power of this shit. And I'm not even sure that's a woman. I better be careful here. but ladies and gentlemen, My Dr. Hank, you can check out the site. And in honor of Jen Psaki, we're going to give you guys 50% off. That's right, 50% off your first order with My Dr. Hank. Get this stuff, and just in case, even if it's just an emergency, in case Jen Psaki ever breaks into your house, make sure you get yourself some My Dr. Hank. Use promo code RARE for 50% off your first order, and you can thank us later because when Jen comes knocking, you want to be able to perform. And she might even talk about you on MSNBC. So anyway, folks, ladies, or I should say gentlemen, no ladies. And in fact, I even talked to my producer about that. I said I was very inclusive in that My Dr. Hank ad because we did include the ladies. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be careful, but at the same time, ladies, don't take this product. Don't take My Dr. Hank. Not a good idea. It's for the fellas. And I hear that Jen might even carry some in her purse for this really, this quick situation. So, My Dr. Hank, carried by the ugliest women in the country, just in case. You have a condom in your wallet from when you were 14 as a guy, and Jen Psaki, she's got her My Dr. Hank. We all have our crutches. So check that out. 50% off your first order, and enjoy the product, ladies and gentlemen. Well, folks, there's been a lot of talk as we go into our last segment here. There's been a lot of talk about the tension between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden heading into the 2024 election. And I think it's important for us to note here that there's been a lot of people talking about Michelle Obama possibly replacing Joe Biden. I want to give my thoughts as I personally think Joe Biden's gonna be the nominee. I think we're too far into this. They're too good about hiding him. They're too, and I understand that he gets worse every time he goes into public, but you got to understand, as we go forward, they're going to be drugging him up. They're going to be hiding him as much as they possibly can, and I think they'll be able to pull it off. My question is whether they replace Kamala Harris or not, until I heard that it was actually Barack Obama that pushed for Kamala Harris to be the vice president. And that got me thinking, okay, why would Joe Biden select Kamala Harris? Well, he did it because of Obama. Why would Obama recommend Kamala Harris? And I don't understand that. I really don't, because I've viewed Kamala Harris all along as somebody who is kind of all about themselves, and the idea that the Obamas would step in and force her to be Joe Biden's vice president is kind of backwards as far as I'm concerned, as far as I was looking at the picture. But then you start to realize that Roger Stone's predicted that Michelle Obama will be the 2024 Democratic nominee. And if they were going to do that, Kamala Harris does provide enough of an ick factor for the Democrats, I think, for them to consider just replacing the whole ticket. And she really is a stopgap if you think about it, because heading into the convention, if Kamala Harris were, say, Gavin Newsom, or she was Gretchen Whitmer or Newsom would be the presumptive nominee to replace Biden. But Kamala Harris is so wildly unpopular and hated that she's not going to be the nominee. There is absolutely no way they put her up as the solo presidential, with a new running mate. There's no way they do that. So Kamala Harris really is a safety measure for the Obamas. And if you believe what Roger Stone has said, that Michelle Obama will be the nominee, it makes perfect sense why they would insert her into the ticket. To say, if Biden leaves, there's going to be a new nominee. And it's not going to be the vice president, it's not going to be Kamala Harris. So really the move by the Obamas to insert Harris is all about protecting their own prospects. And I think it points towards Roger Stone being correct. Keep in mind, folks, the DNC is the Democrat National Convention has decided that their convention for 2024 is going to be in Chicago, the hometown of Barack Obama. So I think all signs are pointing towards maybe Joe Biden not being the nominee. And all along I've thought, hey, there's no way they replace this guy. He's the president of the United States. We're just months away from the election here. But as we move forward and we learn more about the circumstances of Biden's presidency in the first place, it starts to make a lot more sense. And I think it's going to clear up more and more as we go along here. Anyway, folks, I'm Troy Smith, your host. I hope you enjoyed this show. I hope you'll check out our last show. And I hope you will continue to watch. We're going to be posting these on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on our Rumbles and our our YouTube. And we're going to be doing some clips of the show and things of that nature on Facebooks and whatnot. But I would continue to urge you guys, check out My Dr. Hank. That if you guys go ahead and you order, that actually does help us keep the lights on here. It helps us continue operations at Rare. And as you know, whether it's the president of Microsoft or the Biden administration themselves, there's been a tremendous coordinated effort from the establishment to get me out here at Rare. They want me gone. They want our message watered down, and they want me silenced. You guys can fight against that. You can do My Dr. Hank, and we'll have some other products for you going forward, so it's not just exclusive to the men who are trying to prep for Jen Psaki's break-in. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I really do. I can't tell you how much it means for me to be able to sit here and talk politics and have people actually listen. It's tremendous, and it's such an honor in my life to be able to talk about this kind of stuff. I can't tell you how much I love this country and how much it saddens me to see what's happening right now. And that's why I'm here 3 days a week and doing the editor stuff 7 days a week to try to get the right information out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed my funeral outfit. And we will see you on Friday. Have a beautiful Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen.